of good opportunities for some strategy. Normally, you see teams historically have gone kind of a 1-1-3 setup so that they're able to kind of establish dominance in that bot lane, get that shrine, hold it down. They're close to more merc camps than they are in the top lane. Some teams like to go 1-3-1 so that if they have a very roam heavy comp, they can put those two roamers in the middle lane and then have them branch out and take top lane, take bottom lane, kind of just really. Shire has that potential to be very unexpected. It has that potential to have a lot of team fights and no Dragon Knight for the first 9, 10, 11 minutes of the game. It has that potential for a Dragon Knight to come out the very first 10 seconds it's able to be grabbed. But the flip side of that is it's not very strong early game. So we'll have to see what comps these teams go with. The crew was very, very quick. Their ban was Brightwing. They do not want that global presence. They do not want that double self heal. Hopefully she gets hot fixed soon. And then the Pleyz, knowing LZ is a Zerg player, he's very good with micro. He's got micro on the mind at all times. Bans out those Lost Vikings because they are very, very strong on a tri-lane map like Dragonshire. They can just spread out, soak up that experience. It's very smart ban so far.
Definitely. And we like this is almost a mirror image of what we saw in the last round with Envy and Perfect Crime. They ban on the Lost Vikings, and then we see a Sylvanas pick. Now, that Brightwing ban is very, very smart because of the way Promote's been working in a lot of these games in the past couple weeks. And I don't know if they have. I think they have hotfix Brightwing's auto heal. Well, can't be sure though. So with that Sylvanas pick and this being Dragonshire, what do you expect the Pleyz to pull out here and pick?
Seeing that Sylvanas as a first pick, the Kael'thas, partnering her with a Jaina. I mean, the Kael'thas Jaina combo. You and I were using that to perfection a couple nights ago in Hero League. It is absolutely massive on the damage. Now, the problem with those two is they're not very mobile, so they might decide to pair Kael'thas with someone like ETC. They might try and grab a Vala. They might try and deny something. As you see a new Barak, that's a very, very, very good second pick because there's a very real possibility the crew could have had it. A noob is a game changer with his CCs, with his beetles. He's got web wrap, so he can take out Sylvanas or any of the heroes on the crew. He can neutralize anybody. He's got that crazy sustain, with his Locust Swarm. The crew, how are they going to respond to this? I mean, what do you think we're going to see in these next two picks?
I expect them to pick up Jaina. You really don't want to let another team have Kael'thas and Jaina unless you have some super cool strategy you're going to pull out to combat the aggressiveness of the other team. And as I just say that, Jaina's picked up by the crew. Now, they're going to want to grab another warrior or a warrior here or support because they already have one of the supports banned out. It's going to limit the choices that the Pleyz has. Now they can either go for a Rhaegar or Uther with a little bit more control, but Uther has kind of fallen off lately in this meta. I mean, he's not as strong as he used to be, but he's still really, really strong. That Healing Ward changed things a little bit, but just changed the way that teams are positioning those Healing Wards. Now, that being said, we will probably see them pick up a support or another assassin here.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Brightwing is gone, it would be smart to pick up their support now. But seeing that Kael'thas and Anubarak is on the place, and they know that they have Jaina, so that immense damage combo potential is gone, they could go another assassin and kind of just complete it. Complete that damage trifecta, and then just kind of wait and pick up ETC or Muradin, knowing that Anubarak is picked. We see Uther get picked out, so maybe they have a plan that we're not so sure of. Maybe one of those last two picks is going to be Illidan. We'll just have to wait and see, but they made it very, very clear Warrior's not really a priority. They want that damage. They want those stuns that Uther can provide. They want that slow that Jaina can provide. They want to be able to, to silence Kael'thas so he can't get off his crazy, insane damage combo. The Anubarak, they're able just to kind of stun him and keep him from zipping all over the place with his E and able to stun them with his Q ability. And, we'll have to see. Is the Pleyz going to go with a double warrior setup to kind of counter that damage so that they have a very, very beefy front line? Or are they going to go with Illidan? And now the crew can't pick it. So what are they going to do with that Uther? So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be difficult for the crew to deal with the amount of damage that the Pleyz has right now. But if you think about it, the rounding out of the composition that the crew has at these next two picks could show a completely different team than what we're expecting. Now, the Pleyz, they're going to have to pick a support here because if they give the crew a double support, it's going to make Illidan almost useless. Because again, you have to be really, really careful about how you're playing Illidan, where you're positioning him, and when you're using your heroic to go in. And we see a Tassadar pickup by the Pleyz, which is a really, really smart thing to do because it benefits Illidan with his auto attacks. Now, putting all your eggs in one basket can be really detrimental, especially with an Illidan, but you have that Kael'thas backing him up. It's going to be really difficult to deal with that Nubarak initiation and the AoE damage from Kael'thas. What are they going to be able to do to combat that?
They're going to have to try and get beefier. Uther is very good. He's very beefy. He can stun out the Kael'thas, but Kael'thas has such good range on his abilities. He just... he's the newest hero. He just absolutely shattered the meta. I mean, people are scrambling to first pick him or ban him. He's got so much damage potential. The crew has to get beefy. They have to. They have real no real movement, no real mobility out of their first three picks, out of their first four picks now with Zagara. I mean, they are either going to have to stand and fight and hope that they can lock down Kael'thas and Illidan, take out one of them, preferably Kael'thas, because they just do not have mobility. So on a map like Dragonshire, where it's at a premium, Illidan is very mobile. Anubarak is very mobile. Tassadar, very, very, very slippery. Kael'thas, he's a lot like Jaina. He's a lot like Zagara. He'll just stand and melt your face, especially level 16 and beyond with his talent choices. The crew, excuse me, I'm a little nervous about their lack of mobility, but I have faith in the player abilities. So we'll have to see what this final pick is for the Pleyz. They might take no time at all and pick a Rhaegar, but that mobility's got me a little worried. Now, I'm not going to count them out. I don't think they lost in the draft, but we'll have to see if they're able to pull off this lack of mobility and make the Pleyz not mobile either, because that's a very terrifying comp when played correctly.
It really can be. I mean, you have Zagara and Murden to worry about. It's going to be really detrimental to that Illidan, like we were talking about earlier. But they do have a superior composition and the amount of control and the amount of damage that they have on the side of the Pleyz. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they're going to have going on here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, these teams have been around for a while. They know what they're doing. Nothing is really going to kind of surprise them. Nothing's going to sneak up on them. They're pretty much going to be prepared. They're going to have a plan in place if something doesn't go their way early game, so they don't fall too far behind. So I'm not really too worried about seeing, these 5 picks from the crew, because they did get the Jaina. They do have the Muradin. He was kind of bad, and now he's really good, simply because he's Muradin. I mean, he had that potential. He just needed to kind of have a few tweaks. He got those tweaks. Sylvanas is really good for pushing towers, but on a map like Dragonshire, you need to make sure that you don't disregard those shrines, because they can sneak up and bite you if you're not careful.
Definitely. That's one thing that you really be careful with. Like, we haven't gone over the map yet, but Dragonshire is a map where you have 2 shrines on the top and bottom, and then you have a dragon statue in the middle. Now you have to take control of both of those shrines, and then you can gain control of the Dragon Knight in the center, which is a giant siege engine for the rest of your team. Now we're just waiting here on the rest of the teams to select their heroes in game and get this game going. Now, it's going to be really, really cool to see what these teams come out with here. It's going to be like the Pleyz has one of the earliest compositions that I remember when Rhaegar came out. It was Tassadar, Rhaegar, Illidan, and another warrior, and possibly another assassin, or where it just really depended on who was playing at the time. But it's going to be really hard to deal with the amount of damage that's going to be coming out of the Pleyz.
Yeah, that's very true, and it's a good observation. As we wait for these heroes to kind of pick and go and ready up. Looking at these skins, I always like to see skins. I'm kind of a very OCD about that. We see that Sylvanas is rocking that master skin. So obviously the Sylvanas player, has a lot of experience on the hero. So they might be equipped to handle what the Pleyz is going to throw at them. But that first pick, Kael'thas, if you don't ban him, you can pretty much expect to see him. He's just so scary, and the damage potential for the Pleyz is just off the hook. So we'll have to see what happens when we get into this game.
Definitely, and as the game gets going here, we're just going to load in the game here and see what these teams have to offer, man. I'm really excited to see LZ play. Haven't seen him play in a while. It's going to be cool.
Yeah, I'm always excited to see some of my old buddies from our competitive time, especially when I followed them in other games and then they made the transition over to Heroes because they understood how awesome the game was as well. And now that it's officially been launched on half the planet, everyone will be able to rejoice. And I always get giddy whenever I see the Heroes of the Storm commercials. I'm watching baseball, I'm enjoying ESPN, and I see Heroes of the Storm, and I go, oh my god, I could be a jock and a nerd. I'm so happy. So the fact that players like LZ is in here, the players, like Glaurung, who had a Halo background, players like you've got other players on other teams that have backgrounds in other games, and they've come over and they've migrated to Heroes of the Storm. In fact, Huck, one of the StarCraft pros, just came over and said, hey, what content do you guys need? And he announced on Reddit that he is looking to push out content for Heroes of the Storm. So there is already a huge hype following for this game. And the fact that we're able to push that out to the audience so they're able to enjoy some top-notch amateur and pro level events already. I mean, we set up this esports scene. The competitive community just stood up. It's going to be exciting, and I'm talking a lot as I'm waiting for this game to load because I can't wait to see what these two teams are going to come out and do with their strategies.
Oh, for sure, man. And like we said, this is NA eSports Nexus Mayhem. Now we do this every Monday night. It's one of those things that we want to do weekly. We're going to try to do as weekly as possible. Now, we do have the blue team spawning here. Who do we have on the blue side, man?
On the blue side, we've got CCGG on that Uther. Sunshine is playing that Master Sylvanas. We got LZ Gamer on the Jaina. Daihu is playing that Muradin. And Hal Nguyen is on that Zagara there for the crew. And over on the right side, as they bunch up on the mid lane, who do we have over there?
So we have Zaus on Tassadar, Yelkel on Anubarak, Pirate Rum on Illidan. Kael'thas is going to be played by Evan Drind, and then we're going to have Lex Uther on the Rhaegar.
Yeah, and as we see them ride out, I mean, the Cruise looks like they're trying to go for an early gank. They're sending it forward to the mid lane. And again, that it looks like kind of a 1-3-1 for the Pleyz. I mean, it's pretty standard opening. With that Tassadar, you're not going to be able to get much past him. I mean, his Oracle ability, you can't hide. So the crew, they saw that, they backed off, but they still have 4 people in that mid lane. So maybe they're going to be aggressive. Oh, nope. They rotating to bot lane. Maybe they're going to try and get a pick on Pirate Rum or Lex Uther, but you could tell they're taking a very aggressive stance early on with the crew.
They really are, and you can see they're just going that 4-man roam. We saw that before in the old meta, but it hasn't worked out as much as we'd like to. They're being really aggressive, pushing forward those lanes, and then rotating back down, getting both lanes of experience, and trying to just pick off someone that's overextended. Like the Illidan here might be in a little bit of a bad position, but he bounces out of there pretty quickly.
No, I mean, I don't think we're going to see many players out of position. These are 2 very top-tier teams. That Illidan, you kind of have to play him a little bit by the seat of your pants because he's one of those heroes where he doesn't suffer from being out of position. You can't hit him, and then he can just flip away. So obviously Pirate Rum, he's got a lot of experience on Illidan. He knows what he's doing. The bottom shrine looks like it's going to go to the crew. The top shrine is going to go to the Pleyz. It's pretty even this early match. The slight lead to the crew. As we see Evan Drind down that Kael'thas. If he's not careful, he's going to go down in that bot lane. But it's what we've come to expect from these two teams, like the Pleyz and the crew.
It really has. I mean, they got to be careful. Make sure that you don't allow them to gain that bottom shrine control. I mean, like we've said in the past events, like you have to be extremely careful in making sure the other team doesn't get both shrines. If you lose control of one, it's going to be really difficult to gain control again and push them away from that Dragon Knight. Again, we've seen this time and time again. They're just dancing around the shrines, trying to make sure that either team doesn't have both of them at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Zaus on that Tassadar get pushed out of the bot lane. How Nguyen was going for that early harass instead of going for that top shrine. The crew was able to gain control of that bot shrine, but they weren't, like I said, not really putting a heavy emphasis on an early game Dragon Knight, because it's imposing, but it's not really crippling because the health isn't that high. It's low damage. We see both teams setting up by those mercs. I mean, CCGG going so low. We see Illidan going down, Anubarak going down. I mean, the Pleyz has to get out. Lex Luthor's doing whatever he can to try and keep Kel'Thas up, and he goes down, and it's a 3-for-0 in the way of the crew. I mean, they executed that. They collapsed. They just ambushed them as they were going for those siege giants. Very, very, very strong. And then they just went back and picked up the Dragon Knight, and they just said, you know what, we're just going to pour salt in this wound and just kind of secure this knight. So what are you going to do?
It's going to be really, really difficult for them to recover here. I mean, they have plenty of time to do it, but it's going to be hard for them to press the advantage that they don't have anymore. They had a status quo, you could say, and making sure that either lane wasn't too far forward, wasn't being like neglected in any way. They're doing what they needed to do to ensure that they wouldn't get too far behind. But that team fight, they turned around so easily into the way of the crew that it just was too much for the Pleyz to deal with.
Yeah, and as you see, I mean, the crew, they got the Dragon Knight, but they're really just kind of using it to soak up some attention for the mid lane. They had Anubarak, they had Illidan kind of there, trying to keep that pressure on that bot lane. As you could see, I mean, the Dragon Knight really took no damage whatsoever, and just his health bar got depleted. This early game Dragon Knight, not very strong. You really kind of use it as more of a diversion tactic anyways, and the crew was able to get some damage. They got that top turret on the bottom lane. They got the wall almost down, but you see him going in. They're trying to fight for that bruiser camp, and the crew getting very low. Lex Luthor keeping his team up with those chain heals. And Tassadar goes down. It looks like LZ Game is very low on that Jaina. He's going to get away. Lex Luthor just doing really good at kind of cauterizing the wound and not letting any more people die than that Tassadar. But they're able to pick up the bruiser camp. They're still down a level and a half, but it's still very early in this game. Both teams have the opportunity to kind of turn it around, and they're very skilled. So as we transition into mid-game, it's going to be interesting to see if either team's strategy changes based on what has happened thus far.
It really will. I mean, the crew has done an excellent job at putting pressure on every single mercenary camp, making sure the other team doesn't have an opportunity to basically take the foothold that they need to recover and gain the levels that they're behind right now. Now, on the other hand, that last team fight, it was an amazing pullback on the side of the crew when they got a kill. They got the killer, like, okay, guys, we got what we need. Let's back out of here. Let's go do something else.
Yeah, I mean, the crew really, they've kind of been attentive to the entire map. The Pleyz, they have Tassadar. They're able to get that really good vision. The crew, they don't have mobility, so you know what they're doing? They're just sticking 2 and 3 heroes together, and they're just saying, you know what? We don't have that mobility, but what we do have is strength in numbers, and we will always try and outnumber you. And anywhere we show up, we see how Nguyen on that Zagara really kind of getting pushed in, but Muradin jumps in. He's trying to do whatever he can to take Illidan down. But with that Zaus down, he's able just to kind of shield him and kind of just run away. Nothing's really going to happen. But the crew is able to kind of get that top shrine if they need it. Oh, very, very good. LZ Gamer rotates up with that final little nail in the coffin with that water elemental. I mean, they're really not suffering from the lack of mobility. We see Sylvanas getting caught out. I mean, that was a little unfortunate. However, they're still a level up for the crew. They're still executing their plan. They're still able to swarm if any lane kind of gets overrun, and kind of back each other up. So it's interesting to see their strategy play out based on the draft that we saw.
It really is, and we see quite a bit of damage going down here by LZ Gamer against the Kael'thas. It's not going to be enough. Lex Luthor using the Ancestral Healing onto Kael'thas, and LZ goes down because of that bomb. Living Bomb is such a pain in the butt to deal with. I mean, you constantly have to be worrying about that last little tick that explodes. It does a crazy amount of damage. And we see him pick up the extra little damage Fission Bomb on increasing Living Bomb's explosive damage by 75%. That's quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's the damage potential to Kael'thas that we were talking about. And I mean, he's just so scary. And hopefully the Pleyz is able to keep it close. You know, they are a level down, but they're not out. I mean, Kael'thas is just going to get stronger and stronger as the game goes on. And they're going to be able to kind of just bully the crew as the game goes on, because the crew, they've got a good plan. They're executing it well so far, but Kael'thas just continues to get stronger as the game goes on. You know, and Yelkow and that Anubarak, I mean, the build that he's going right now, you know, he's going the Beetle build, excuse me. And, you know, like I said, they changed the AI on those Beetles. He is such a different hero right now. I mean, this is any team's game one to lose right now, as we see a Phoenix going down just to kind of zone out the crew. And, you know, and Illidan pays for it with his life. He got a little bit too cocky, a little bit too, you know, a little bit too out of position. But, you know, it's both teams are kind of just chugging along. So we'll have to see if the Pleyz is able to turn it around and get rid of that level advantage. Or disadvantage, I'm sorry.
And they are at talent point up. We do have a slight engagement here. LZ Gamer getting Divine Shield cast on him. They're all using the heroics, popping him. Uther's taking a lot of damage here. His shields are keeping him up. He does go down, however. Devouring Maw goes down. Lex Luthor's in a lot of trouble here. Uses his Ancestral Healing, keeps himself alive, but he's not going to be able to get out of there with the force of Daihu and that Muradin. Yelkow is having to get out of there. Zeus is doing whatever he can to keep his teammates alive, and exactly what he needs to do. Pirate Rum going in, trying to disrupt as much as he can, but that Metamorphosis is going to be wearing out any second now. He has to be careful. Yelkow taking a lot of damage as well. They're going to have to back out. Pirate Rum taken down. That's a second Dragon Knight going in the way of the crew. What can the Pleyz do at this point? That's two Dragon Knights. Their teamfight abilities are just on point.
Yeah, I mean, the crew is just reacting so quick. They see an opportunity to strike in a team fight, and they just focus down. They're focused in team fights. They know who they want. They pick priority targets. They go for them. If anybody gets a little bit out of position, they punish them. And as you can see, they got a few kills in that team fight. They got their second Dragon Knight. I mean, they are not letting this lack of mobility stop them. They're showing you. Zagara, Muradin, Jaina, Sylvanas, I mean, they have immense synergy together, and they're putting on a perfect display right now of that synergy with the crews. As we see Daihu getting engaged upon, but, you know, he's Muradin. He's going to get out. It's what he does. So, you know, this game has already been exciting, and I can't wait to see how it plays out.
Definitely, and we saw Divine Shield used on Muradin to keep him from going down, but it's not going to be up for at least another minute. And we see the Pleyz going for that Mercenary Camp. It might be a little dangerous here, but they are going to be able to they're going to have that assistance and damage. Yelkow has to pop Locust Storm. That's down for 100 seconds. It's not going to be up by the time the next team fight happens. They're almost going to be down an entire talent point. It's going to be really difficult for them to recover here, but I have hope for them, man. I don't know what they can do to recover from this, but they have a chance.
Yeah, and you can see the crew. You know, at the beginning of the game, they're trying to stick kind of close together. That way they can kind of mask the fact that they don't really have any escapes. As the game has worn on, they are almost 2.5 levels up on the Pleyz. So, I mean, they're just sending Zagara to kind of push and continue to soak experience. They didn't have her, you know, so the Pleyz is able to get those Siege Giants in bottom, but it doesn't look like it's really going to make that much of a difference. I mean, they just counter by getting that middle outer fort, and now it looks like they're just going to rotate down and take care of those knights, but they're going to send 3 people up maybe to counter those bruiser camps. I mean, the crew has a plan. They're sticking to it, and I really commend them for their ability just to capitalize in these team fights early game and just kind of keep general map presence up at all times and just really press their advantage whenever they see even just a little bit of one that they have.
definitely. And it looks like they're preparing to take that top shrine, making sure that the crew can't get another Dragon Knight. But it's going to be really difficult for them to recover from this. They're down 2 levels or 3 levels right now and an entire talent point. What can they do to recover? They have to press a lane, get that experience, get that level 16 before the crew can make another play and take out the Pleyz.
And it looks like they've identified that. They went ahead and very quickly took out that top fort for the crew. Very, very good positioning. They're able to kind of get that top shrine, maybe rotate down and get the bottom shrine. They've got the crew kind of on their heels, but really, no, they don't, because the crew is able to take that bottom inner keep. I mean, they're just really not worried about losing that top fort. They say, we'll just beat you in the structure game. I mean, yeah, you took one of ours, so we'll take 2 of yours. I mean, it's just, the crew has been very impressive. Now they are 3 levels up. They are just rolling along. I mean, doing what the crew does. It's very impressive. Howden taking some damage, but he's got Sunshine there to back him up. And Lex Luthor going low. He got the Ancestral Healing, but unfortunately, he's just going to get focused down. Pirate Rum on that Illidan has to pop Metamorphosis to get out, and he might not even get away anyways. I mean, the crew is just following up these opportunities and these little missteps by the Pleyz to just capitalize and continue to press their advantage.
And this is going to be the 3rd Dragon Knight for the crew in 13.5 minutes. You don't normally see that in these types of games, but they are just on point with their rotations. They are focusing the correct targets at all times. They're not letting the Pleyz have an opportunity to catch up here. It's going to be really hard for them to win at this point. I mean, there's 3 blood for bloods on the side of the crew, the Pleyz, but what can they do? They have to focus down a single target and change the team fight to a 4v5 rather than the other way around.
Yeah, and you just saw, I mean, Evan Drinde on that Kael'thas popped out that Phoenix to do whatever he could to kind of stop it. So what does the crew do? They back up and let the Dragon Knight soak it and just continue to push. They took down that wall. They took down those turrets. I mean, it just seems like they're just very comfortable. They're in their comfort zone, even when getting engaged upon. I mean, they know their 3-level advantage. They've got the health bar difference. Really just to kind of counter what Kael'thas can put out right now. Even though he is at level 16, theoretically, he should be ramping up. But, I mean, a 3-level difference, that's a big difference.
It really is. And we're going to see an engage here. A Nubrak taking a lot of damage. Devouring Maw going down. Kael'thas is in a lot of trouble. He does get taken down. Tassadar is going to escape with his E, which is a phase shift. He's not going to be able to get out, or actually Zeus gets out of there just fine, but LZ isn't going to have any of that. You're going down, buddy. Sorry to say. And that's going to be game. That is good game to the crew of game number 1 with the Pleyz versus the crew. Now keep in mind, folks, this is the best of 3, so we're going to see another round of games here. But that was a crazy, crazy game number 1. We haven't seen the crew before. This is like, they haven't played together in a tournament setting before. This is the first time we've seen LZ since he left EG.
Yeah, I mean, that was just that synergy that they